Good. Everyone comfortable? Then let's begin. Hello. A little bit about me to begin with. This is the mysterious mammals of Sweden. You may remember we are concentrating on the Arctic fox, the Wolverine and the lynx, primarily the Arctic fox, my study species. So that's me, and that's my social media. I'm on too many things, and that's the website where this talk will be going before the end of the week. That's what I looked like a few years ago. I haven't changed much. The hat is the same. It's just managed to lose the strap. I've always been an outdoorsy sort of person. I've always been interested in outdoors. I've been a scout since I was this big. I've been taking people camping and teaching bushcraft skills since I was about that big. My 21st birthday was my 374th night camping. I've lost count now. It's somewhere near 500. That picture I put in to show I consider myself some semblance of a scientist, after some fashion. This is from my bachelor's thesis. I work on spiders. So my interest primarily is ecology conservation. I'm here in Uppsala doing my master's in ecology conservation. Interest in animal behavior. So I did a spider behavior thing, and now I'm doing a master's in Arctic fox with Stockholm University. So yes, I am flitting between two parties. I'm a student in Uppsala, but I'm doing my master's thesis through Stockholm. This is a photo you will maybe recognize from the Facebook event. Everything will become clear in time, absolutely. So, mysterious mammals of Sweden. Who has seen an Arctic fox? 4 in a room, okay. Does that play? Probably not for that one. Good, okay, so a few people. Okay, who has seen a Wolverine? A few more people, that's surprising actually. I thought it would go the other way. What about the lynx? How many have seen a lynx?
In the zoo.
Scanson doesn't count. Right, sorry, for lynx, how many roughly? A few people? You've seen a lot of things, that's very good. Right.
I mowed.
Okay. Fine. How many people have seen tracks or scats or signs or heard the sounds of any of these animals? The Arctic fox, the Wolverine, or the lynx?
Yeah.
Okay, slightly less. I consider these 3 animals to be what I'd consider called mysterious animals. Animals that you know are present. You know the effects of them. You know, lynx have recently been called out as a problem for farmers. The Wolverine, we hear stories of them chasing reindeer across miles in the mountains, across snowy mountains, causing Sami people problems. And the Arctic fox, this beautiful, this is rather a grey, skinny one, but a rather beautiful, white, fluffy animal, very mystical and of a fashion. So you know they're around, you know the stories about them, but you don't see them very much. They're very hard and very elusive, you don't connect with them on a personal level. I luckily have been able to connect with the Arctic fox and the Wolverine. I'm still yet to see and interact with the lynx in person. But yes, the Arctic fox. So the Arctic fox, as you can see from the background of this picture, this is Dad of R5. That was his name. It's from Den, number R5, and his name is Dad. He's eating on some fish in front of my camera trap. You can sort of see the background of that picture. You can see the sort of habitat they're in. The distribution of the Arctic foxes, which is where I'm going to start today, is Northern Hemisphere, hence I've lost half the world, and the mountainous and cold regions. So Sweden, you can see here, it starts in Norway in the mountains, climbs up the mountains and across the northern Sweden. That's what they like. They like open, vast habitats, the mountains, the tundras. What does that look like? So these are, unless I state otherwise, the photos on my own. This was the first couple of days when I was up the mountains in the summer. This is what it was like when the snow was starting to melt. You can see how open it is, how large the sky is, how not flat it is. And these aren't too bad, but that image might give you another perspective as to how these mountains can look. What we'd consider a tough terrain. When you think about the mountains, when you think about those northern habitats and the tundras and stuff, what sort of things come to mind? Like, what do you think makes them difficult to live in? You're welcome to shout out answers. What do you think makes it difficult to live in these sort of habitats?
Lack of shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of food.
Food, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it's cold as well. Yeah. Damn cold occasionally. Yes?
Change of weather.
Absolutely, very, very changeable weather. So you see most of my photos are from nice days. I was up there for a long time. There aren't that many photos. So, absolutely. So we've got food, we've got lack of shelter, changing weather. We could say it's cold, and we could say it's just difficult. That's the only bush in this photo. It is. I checked. Everything else grows about that tall. So food and the weather controls the growth of things. These are what we call low productivity habitats. Habitats where there's not a lot of vegetation, and if there's not a lot of vegetation, there's not many herbivores, and if there's not many herbivores, you can't have too many predators. It doesn't work. So these are what we call low productivity habitats. They're very useful for studying. A low productivity habitat, you can remove a lot of the noise about animal interactions and ecological concepts that happen in noisier or more busy, more productive habitats. So we do a lot of studies up in these areas on things like predation rates and predation pressures and cycles like that. A few more photos. So they are glorious, they are beautiful. The water is clean, the sky is beautiful and big, but they are tough. So, the Arctic fox survives in these habitats. It's got to have some amazing adaptations, hasn't it? It's got to be able to cope with these environments. Let's talk about some of those adaptations. Has anyone, those of you who haven't seen an Arctic fox, have you seen one of these? I know it's sad, I know it's not a very nice thing to hold out, but it is the skin of an Arctic fox. This specifically was a fur farm fox, which was unfortunately killed for its fur. We'll come on to why that's a massive issue later. I'm not going to hand this round, but at the end in the Q&A, come and stroke it, it's soft. They have the most amazing fur. They have 3 layers to their fur. Some of the layers point in different directions so that they can trap in air, and some of the hairs are hollow to trap in air, like the polar bear. It's the warmest fur of any mammal. I'm not sure exactly how they measured that, if they just wrapped some guy up and kicked him outside his home. It's the warmest fur of any mammal. It's incredibly expensive, which we'll come on to later when we come on to the causes of decline of this species. That's a small hint. It's a pretty big hint. As well as that, they're the only canid, the only member of the dog family that has fur between and over its pads of its paws. This is to help it grip on ice and grip on snow, and also to protect it from the cold. Everywhere that touches the ground gets cold. So they have this amazing fur, and they have the really padded feet. You can see, if I try and fluff it out a little bit, roughly like that. They're quite round animals. I know it's my hands making the shape, but they're quite round. Round is a good shape when you're in cold regions. Anything that is flat, or anything that isn't round, basically has too high a surface to mass ratio. You need to try and reduce the surface area. That's what these guys do. When they're set up on the mountains, they'll lie down, they'll tuck their head in, they'll put the tail over their head, and now you've just got one lump of fluff sat there, very safe, very warm. These guys, with their amazing fur, they can get down to minus 70 degrees Celsius before they start to shiver. It's 3 degrees outside tonight and I'm shivering. These guys can hit minus 70 first. So, very cool fur. What else? The ears on this are a bit damaged, but you might be able to see on Mum of T13 here. This is Mum and Dad of T13. She's got very rounded ears. Again, round is better than flat. They've got small eyes and small noses because eyes and noses are wet, and that's bad when it's windy and icy. So these are just some of the amazing adaptations these animals have developed to be able to survive. Obviously there's 2 different coloured looking animals here. This one's much greyer, this one's much whiter. There are 2 colour forms. This one is also white-ish. Looks kind of 3 colour forms, I like. There are 3 colour forms. One is hardly ever seen. It's a sand-coloured form. Incredibly rare. The other 2 are blue and white. So this is the summer coat of the white trait, and in the winter they turn pure white, with the exception of their noses which stay black. The blue stay blue throughout the winter. So for the scientists in the room, fun fact, if I remember correctly, 70% of the population of Swedish Arctic foxes is white, but the blue is the dominant allele. So you've got to assume there's a significant survival advantage to being able to camouflage yourself in snow, which is of course what they do. They come to winter, the snow comes down. Up in the mountains where I was, they have got some number of feet of snow at the moment. And when I went up in May, there was still this much snow. It only took till July before it disappeared. So, snow is good. Snow is easy to hide in. Now, I want to show you some cute fox videos, and we're going to carry on talking about their lifestyle. So as I say, this is mum and dad. Most dens that I visited had mum and dad, and that's very important because they pair for life. This one you want volume for? No, not yet. They pair for life, and what they do, in the winter, like now, they will be separate and running around all over the place eating and just trying to survive. Come breeding season, which for them, because they're so far north, is middle April, basically, onwards. They start to pair up and start to meet each other again. They go to the fox dens, which is the next slide after this one, and they start having babies. And they can have many babies. The record last year, not the year I was, it's like 2018, I think there was a den with 18 cubs. That's a lot of babies. That's a lot of mouths to feed. Mouths to feed. Key hint, remember that one. So, they are social, but they are individualistic as well. They hunt on their own, with the exception of parents hunting for their cubs. A fox is on its own in terms of survival, but they will help other adults raise cubs. So it's a very complex social system. It's not pack mentality, and it's not selfish mentality. It's this wonderful mix of both. I was watching a documentary which referred to them very much as human-like. Yes, so with this community feeling, with the family communities, they've got to have a good level of communication. Communication is also very key. You know, the winds can be howling around up there. One of their adaptations, they have a slightly different range of sound waves that they can hear compared to domestic dogs. The top end is slightly lower, and the bottom end is slightly lower as well, so it's just a dropped range from the domestic dog. They can hear their prey, which we'll come on to later, digging under 6 inches of snow. No problems. In gusting winds, in gales of stupidly fast winds. But they have to be able to communicate, and one of the ways they communicate danger is like... So this is a young female who on... Is she gonna bark? No. On R3, with one of the dens on the next valley over from where I was camping. Now I must say, I'm shooting this with a DSLR with a long lens. I'm not trying to get too close to the foxes, but occasionally for the work we're doing we had to. I'll come on to briefly later. So at this point she's seen me, I've seen her, and she is like, no, this isn't good. Mom, Dad, come help, come help. There's something coming. Which can be a very good sign. That's communication. Yes, as I said, the parents pair up and they start to go down fox, they go to find their dens. Let's see if this video works. So I've turned the sound off for this one, and this is me trying to use a phone for a scope. Look at this kind of mound shape. You can see the long grass in it, the green grass compared to the brown of everything else. Ignore the white stick, that's the rangers put out there. The green grass is what we're looking for. That's a key thing which they're looking for. They're looking for an area that defrosts faster than everywhere else, south-facing, raised up, so they can dig into it. Within that den, just see a cub's head sticking out there. There'll be a few hundred square meters of tunnels and runways and ways in and out. And this particular den, I could see it from this side quite clearly. The other side, there's a big lake, and they have pathways that come out directly next to the lake, and then they can skirt around that. They can even swim quite well. The fur is relatively buoyant, but they don't want to stay in water because if it soaks up, then it's impossible to dry, and it's still cold. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a sort of a dome structure which thaws and defrosts quite quickly. Yes. Let's do some cute animal stuff now. We've seen families. So this is, oh no, wait, how does this work?
Yeah, it's cute.
Yes. My background is a series of mammal photos from other travels, so I have no idea what actually comes up. Excuse me. A bit of a tickle. I had too many photos in this folder to put into the PowerPoint, so I'm doing it this way. This is for the R factor, so I would not mind if there is an actual audible R happens. It would be good for the camera. Ready? There's Mum. Look at the timestamp. This is 1:30 in the morning. Look how bright it is. It's summer. The sun is up 24/7 in the mountains. That's my favourite. That was my favourite photo of all of them. But there is more. I'll just skip through it quite quickly. You can get a pretty good idea of playtime and what it looks like. Oh, we still can't work out what Dad's carrying. He's got something, we don't know what it is. I've sent my professor this photo. He doesn't. We think it's a bird. That's about as close as we can get. There's Mum and Dad and the cubs. Now there's a better image of some white cubs. So you can see all the cubs are very dark. They're born very dark colours, and like almost all mammals, they are born altricial, which means they're born with their eyes closed and some level of furness, without fur, without hair. Basically blind, stupid, and just entirely reliant on mother. But they grow up quite quickly. They come out of the den in 4 to 6 weeks, and then they're running around like this like maniacs, which I think is very cute. What am I doing? What am I doing? That one. Give me my mouse back. Right, here we go. Yay! Right, that's the den one which we just saw. So, that's a little bit about sort of their lifestyles, their adaptations to the cold, breeding habits. Oh, one more cute video and then we'll do food. This one's just coming out of the den for probably the first time. There was another one in the hole, that's why I panicked. What are you doing? What are you doing? Yes. Nice sunset shot going with the album cover.
What size are we talking about here?
So these cubs, so the adults, that's a very good question. The adults grow and they're averaging 3.5 to 4 kilograms. Males can reach up to 8 kilograms. The cubs are born at about 500 grams. They are tiny, tiny little things. At this weight, we're looking at measuring, she's probably around the 5 to 6, 700 gram mark. Sorry, when they come out of the den, they're about 5. And then the project we were working on, we needed cubs over 700 grams for the particular protocol we were using. So yes, very small.
How close are you from here?
Sorry?
How close are you from here?
This distance I'm 15, 20 meters.
Okay.
Yeah, very close. Yeah, I could have taken this photo with my phone.
Yeah.
Food. I was meant to make that animated, but it doesn't matter. There's a hint, that's what they eat. Arctic foxes rely very heavily on specifically lemmings, the Norwegian lemming, but also other small rodents. Rodents, particularly in the mountain habitats, but also more generally, have a cyclic life cycle. This is meaning every, in the case of the lemming, 3 to 4 years, there's a boom in a population, and then between that, there's a crash. The foxes rely on this. In the years when the lemming is abundant, when there is the boom year, the 4th year, you will have as many as 30 to 40 new litters in a year, and litters up to 18 for foxes. Survival rate in those years goes up to 30% for cubs, up to first year. In a crash year, you'll be lucky if you find within the entirety of Sweden now 5 to 6 new litters. You're looking at less than 10 cubs in a litter and a 5% survival rate. Really not very good. So they need these years, they need the years when the lemming is around to boost the population so they have a chance of surviving. What drives lemming cycles is still being researched, but generally you find it's not actually predators who drive prey cycles. Prey cycles will pull predator cycles with them. So it's not a case of there are too many foxes suddenly eating these things, or every other bird as well. But it'll be something in their population, in their community, and their movement. But that's not what we're going on about today. When there's not lemmings, or grey-sided voles, or black-backed voles, or anything else like that, they can eat birds and eggs. So this is probably a good moment to mention exactly what I was actually doing up the mountains. I went up the mountain last year with Stockholm University on the beginning of June, end of May, beginning of June. I was up there for 8 weeks, and I'm doing my thesis on predation pressure in the Arctic habitat, subarctic habitat, and the diet of the Arctic fox. So I was up the mountain, I was laying out fake nests with real eggs in it, and then I was assessing how many of those nests got predated, try and work out what they got predated by. So this is kind of a case of, here we have things that can be eaten, here we have a number of things that eat them, how much is actually happening? That's what we're trying to work out. I collected 156 plus pieces of fox scat, fox poo, from various dens over the 8 weeks, which I'm now going through trying to work out what they've been eating by looking at the bones, the fur and the feathers. I've also got data as to when the lemmings crashed, because the lemmings seem to crash in the middle of the season this year. So I can see if there's a sudden switch to birds and what birds. So the fact that they eat birds can be quite important. Now obviously I'm talking about the mountain-based Arctic foxes in Sweden. Arctic foxes around the world eat other things. You might have seen documentaries on TV about the Arctic foxes in Canada stealing goose eggs. There's been some outcry about that. People want the goose around because the goose is better hunting, so they hunt the foxes to save the goose, to hunt the goose. No. And also there are some crabs who live on the coast. They live by water courses and they eat crabs, or they eat fish, or they eat water-based birds. So this is all very different. Everyone adapts perfectly to their unique environment. That is how these guys are such good survivors. Ish. Unfortunately, it's true. The Arctic fox has been declining for many, 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 many years. At one point, well, primarily because of this. That's why they were dying. Because us, people, humans, were hunting them for the fur. It was something in the region of one blue Arctic fox fur would fetch 80 euros, and I can't remember what year this was in, but that 80 euros was equivalent to a whole year's worth of pay. So, work that one out. One blue Arctic fox fur is a whole year's worth of pay. Fine. But there's other problems. The climate and the world around us is changing dramatically. It's changing fast. One problem I'm going to point out, it is a video, it is not that bad a photo, is this guy. So at this one I am a very long way away, hence the very apologetic shaky camera. Red fox. Who's seen a red fox? Yeah, everyone's probably seen a red fox. Very common species. Very common, very successful, very good at adapting to a new environment. They are making their way north. They are progressing further north every season. And it's worth pointing out at this point, I've been referring to the Arctic fox as a predator. There is a small inaccuracy in that. They are a predator, they eat things, but they're technically a mesopredator. They are eaten by other things. They are the middle ground. Things eat them, which include, please be video. Yeah, eagles and red foxes, wolverines, wolves, anything bigger than them. Those cubs are only, as I say, 500 grams when they come out of the hole. That is not a big meal. Buzzards can have that, kites could take that, skewers would have a good go. So, why is this such a problem now? With the hunting, populations became fragmented. They started struggling to meet up, and therefore you start getting less breeding. If populations can't connect, then obviously you can't breed. As well as that, there's less snow in the winter. Your camouflage isn't so successful. So what's your best defense if you're used to hiding for something? Because it used to be, if you were hiding from something and you moved, you got eaten. Now, you're hiding from something, they can see you anyway. What are you meant to do? That's not a quick thing for an animal to learn. Maybe an individual can learn it, but as a community, as a development of evolution or adaptation, that's not a quick process to recover from. Foxes are making their way further north. Now I think these foxes look a little bit different to the foxes in the south of the country, or certainly the foxes around urban areas and what I've seen in England. I can't quite put my finger on it, I need to get more film footage. I think the legs are longer, and I just think they're just that much fluffier. So they are adapting, of course, to go north, but the conditions aren't so harsh. We're not getting the -70 degree winters in the north. which the foxes can survive. The foxes just lie down and sleep and they're fine. These guys wouldn't make it, but now they're making it through the winters. So, eagles have always been around. Eagles have always been an aspect of predation on the Arctic foxes. So, I put that up there. The climate, that's the problem. It's a lot of the problem. There's a lot of things going on. Obviously, nothing's ever quite that simple. There are a number of PhD students, postdocs, master students, all within Stockholm University within this project, that project, who are talking about climate and the effects it's having. Obviously, different snow in the winter also affects your prey, your lemmings and stuff like that. So it's a very big topic. But a little bit about the project, the Arctic Fox Project. So this is the badge. This is the badge. I have a number of small supporter badges here, but I'll talk about that in a second. This is the mountain region, basically. Obviously, Norway's over here, and mountains spreading to Norway, but this is where we work. 2017, we go to different areas, every year, we go to different areas and count the number of dens with litters. This is the number. It's 2017, pretty good year. 31 new litters, considering 40 years ago when this project started, which is when this project did start 40 years ago, we were getting 2 new litters in a year. Recovery has been made. The Arctic Fox Project. So yeah, absolutely. I was based up here, basically. I counted that Vintersfjällen area. I did mine last year, and the data hasn't been released publicly, so I can't share too much. But it was an okay year. They did all right. We got some cubs out. It's a good project. Specifically, that's what I did over the summer. This is a rubbish little poster that I made very quickly before a mini conference which we had. But yes, caught and tagged 11 fox cubs. You might not be able to see it. Ear tags. So, why am I cuddling a fox? Well, we've caught the fox. It's the short answer. So we've put out cage traps, we bait them, and then when we catch young foxes, the cubs who are over 700 grams, we put in ear tags, identifiable ear tags, different colours, one in each ear. That way you can identify them from a distance. We're using this data to track who survives from one year to the next. We're collecting behavioural data, so we have their size, we have their weight, we have their leg length, we have their tail length, we have if they're aggressive, if they're wussy, how long it takes for them to go back down the hole after we release them. So we have all this data. 2 adults. No, we didn't put ear tags in adults. Adults have already got this. They were caught in the video. We were putting on radio collars. That was fun. So these guys, they're fine. They're, sub a kilogram at best, 1.2k. Fine. You can hold that like that and it doesn't move too much. I say that, but when I'm holding, I then held out like that to release and she turned around and bit me. That's not it. That's a new mark, which is just ironically in the same place. The adults, they're bigger, as I say, up to 5, sometimes 8 kilograms for the males. We didn't have any that big. I think that's more like the Canadian ones can get to that sort of size. Let's say 5 here. Trying to find a way to hold onto a fox, which is as soft as this and as gentle as this, with teeth and claws, and trying to put a collar on it. Fantastic. It was successful though. We did manage to tag 2 adults, or I managed to tag 2 adults with help from another student. Because obviously you can't do any of this now. And that data is still being sent back. The foxes have still got the collars on, and they will until this summer, or the summer coming, when we'll go take the collars off. The data we've already received through mobile data, and we're going to have a look at that. The longest day that I walked was 47.9 kilometers in one day. It's roughly where I was, so it's a 3-hour drive to the nearest hospital and a 4-hour walk to the nearest road from my campsite. So I'm 7 hours from a hospital. There's not that many places to put a helicopter, but yes, often enough carrying somewhere between an 18 and a 23 kilogram rucksack with all the traps and the equipment and whatever else you need, because I'm up there for 8 weeks, but I'm up there for 6 days at a time. I come down on the Thursday, have pea soup, jump in the sauna, go to the shop, go back up. Great fun. It's true, I really did eat, I think, at least 17 packets of Dick. It might have been more. I think I threw some receipts out because I didn't want But yes, it's over 200 crowns of Biggest Eve biscuits. It's fantastic. Biggest Eve, honey. Perfect. New mammal species I saw: the wolverine, the lemming, the grey-sided vole, and the Arctic fox. I hadn't seen them before. The lemming, not the lemming, they're boring. No, the lemming is funny actually. The lemming stole my biscuit. I was sat in my tent, I had my hat on the floor, I had a biscuit on the side of my hat, I was reading something on my Kindle, next thing I know the biscuit's gone and there's lemming disappearing out my tent. No! Luckily I had another pack, but I did manage to get outside and photograph it, and that is the lemming that was photographed earlier. The wolverine, I said I'd talk about the wolverine today. The wolverine is also fantastically well adapted to this northern environment, and they're everywhere. They're all over, in basically the same region as the Arctic fox. They can come lower. They also don't struggle so much with this climate change. You know, nothing eats the wolverine, it'd be stupid to try. They've got one of the strongest bite forces of any mammal. They are so fast, they've got really massive paws. For an animal which is badger size, you know how big a badger is, it's got paws bigger than my hand. You can run on snow, you can chase down reindeer. These things are fantastic. I saw one on my my first night alone up mountain. I was sitting there watching T13, I was watching Mum and Dad started getting a bit agitated, a bit irate. He was just kind of looking off to the left. Very agitated, very upset. So I filmed him. I said, oh, that's interesting. And then I put the camera down. Then a wolverine walked up and over the top of the den, sniffed the trap which we had on top of the den, and walked off again. Damn! And I put the camera down, so I've got no evidence of it, but I did see a wolverine. That was the first. Second time it was running across a nice sheet. Much clearer to see. They're very big, they're very dark, they're very strong. As I say, I was up there doing bird research, so how many birds I see? So damn many birds. That's roughly what I do for my project. We're going to talk about the lynx as well. I don't have so many fun facts about the lynx. I haven't seen one myself. And unfortunately I'd lost part of my PowerPoint earlier, so that's actually the end of the PowerPoint, so I'm going to try and make up for it. The lynx and the wolverine, as I say, they're both fascinating animals, difficult to see, very elusive. Biotopia here, they run occasional tracking tours where you can go out with them, see lynx tracks, see wolf tracks and stuff up in Glamson and up in Florida and nature reserves near here. And there are something in the region of 50 lynx, just under 10 lynx family groups in Uppsala land at the moment. They do an inventory every year, so that's what they're counting on for this year, is about 50. Which is a lot considering there are 6 wolves in this area and 2 records of a bear, roughly. So lynx, for considering how little you see of them, they're everywhere.
Excuse me, ask me about my
Moose. Do you want to hear about the moose?
Sure.
Okay, fine. So obviously there's loads of animals up there. There's reindeers, there's lemmings, there's foxes, there's eagles, and apparently there are moose. This surprised me somewhat. I didn't think about it. I saw the reindeer and I thought, that's fine, that makes sense. It's blowy, it's windy, it's cold, it's rainy, it's horrible. I'm watching T13. I'm not in the tent. The tent's about a mile that way. The foxes are about a mile that way. Sorry, kilometre and a bit. There's a rock, so I'm huddled down and I'm hiding down behind this rock because it's windy. And you think, okay, well, it's grey, it's horrible. I'm wearing all green because that happens to be what colour my waterproof clothing is. There's no one else around. It's actually slightly peaceful, except the fact it's raining. Snap, behind me, turn around. Oh, please don't be a wolverine, please don't be a wolverine, please don't be a... Nope, that's worse. From here to that curtain, 2 meters, is a young bull moose. So I turned around and went, oh no, and he's gone, oh no. So he goes up with his arms, and I'm like, well, I die. So I managed to get behind the rock. Very ninja. No, very dramatic, but probably not necessary. He hit the ground and ran off. That was the closest I come to death up the mountain. I'm fairly certain. Being stabbed by a moose is not on my top 10 ways to go. Yeah, so that was the moose. What else was I going to talk about? It's really annoying. I lost, as I say, PowerPoint crash at 4 o'clock. It really throws you off. Oh, it's been about half an hour. That's a good enough talk. Let's go with that. Has everyone found something that they enjoy listening to?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Well, if you don't, you can always ask questions and try and make it happen. So let's do the Q&A. I even lost the thank you slide. So. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have one. Can I take a question now?
Absolutely.
You said 30% blue, 70% white.
I think
Did
so.
you say that blue was the dominant gene?
Yes.
That was peculiar.
Yes, it is. And that's what I say.
I don't understand really, but
It is quite peculiar, which is why we think there is a very, very important reason to be white in the snow. Very much a survival advantage.
okay.
So maybe it's just that population won't
It
survive
makes
so much.
sense then.
Yes.
So, has there been any research since the snow is disappearing on like if the percentage of blue goats is maybe increasing?
I don't know if any results are out yet. I'm sure someone's looking at it. I don't get to hear everything that my professor is organising. It's fun. But I'm sure that will be very important to look at soon, absolutely. Because blue's not camouflaged in the mountains either, but I guess if you can get into a shadow of a rock, then you're better to be blue than white. So maybe absolutely it becomes advantageous soon. But we might see a very quick shift, especially with blue being the dominant allele. You'll see a very quick shift of colours in the mountains. Yes. Hi.
You're saying the lemon had a 4-year cycle.
3 to 4 years, yeah, roughly.
What's the rough age of a Arctic fox then? How many cycles of lemons could that one experienced to?
So evidence shows they can live for 10 to 12 years, 11-year average in the wild. So they'll get through a good few, 3 roughly, lemon cycles. Some research came out from one of the PhD students who's just finished his PhD, was looking at the success rate of breeding in boom and crash years between experienced and inexperienced mothers. So inexperienced mother in a boom year does absolutely fine. Inexperienced mother in a crash year struggles a lot, but the rate of success with the experienced mother was very similar in both. And that looked a lot at how much time the parents left the offspring for, and therefore the predation risk on the offspring, and also their success rate of finding food. So that was quite an interesting paper that came out as part of his thesis. Yes. Ooh, something I was meant to talk about. I knew I was going to remember stuff. What are we doing to help the Arctic foxes? That's important. We have the suffering, let's do the recovery. Yes, fine. Do you want more pictures of cute baby foxes? Is that better? Wait, there we go. I've got my favourite one there. Hey. Oh, Mum and Dad are cute. You know, look at Mum and Dad for a bit. Recovery. So, food is a big issue. We came across that earlier and we talked about how the lemming crashes have a massive effect and how the population really struggles in the years when there isn't enough food, of course. So what are we doing? We're feeding them. That's the big plan. There are feeding stations, and I searched online forever to try and find a photo of a feeding station and found none, and realised I hadn't taken one either, which is probably why there's none up there, because no one thinks to take a photo of it. Next year, I'll get a photo. Basically 2 big drums, like plastic oil drums, plastic containers, stuck in an L shape. Top one's filled with food and it drops through into the bottom one. Foxes run in, grab the food, dog biscuit, and run back out. The rangers go up there 2 or 3 times a year with about 50 kilograms of food dumped into the box. And this is one feeding station per den, or per regularly used den, because they can shift dens, but we know which ones are used most, or most commonly. So we're feeding them. There's also a lot of conservation breeding projects happening in Norway, and also around the world. So the project I'm involved in, I'm doing this all backwards, the project I'm involved in is called the Circumpolar Initiative. So we've got scientists everywhere from Russia through to Canada, in Sweden, and everywhere in the Arctic, subarctic habitat, doing research on predation pressures, bird survival rates, mammal survival rates, climate change, and everything. So this is being shared all around the world. This is a relatively big international thing. Breeding project going around, a lot of research, a lot of people are now culling red foxes. You see a red fox, shoot on sight. immediately. Or in my case, because I'm not allowed to carry a gun up the mountain, phone a ranger, tell him where it is, and the ranger goes and deals with it, and I don't watch. Yes, so that's some of the recovery projects, and it seems to be successful. Say, 40 years ago when this project started, we had so few Arctic foxes in Sweden. There's only roughly 300 between Norway and Sweden now as it is, but we are looking at getting, in the peak years, 30 plus litters coming out of that. And I think the number is increasing relatively steadily. So that's the recovery. It is good news. It is a lot of work. It is pretty expensive work as well, because we're employing rangers to be up there all year round, and we're sending scientists up there to do things and work out things. And the conservation breeding itself is not a cheap method to use for recovery, but the results are good. And it's important we keep these guys in the ecosystem, because being a mesoprotean, it's not easy for a wolverine or a golden eagle to catch a lemming. For that transition of energy through an ecosystem, you need to have all the parts. These guys are a good mesopredator. Sorry, I saw a hand pop up, yes?
Yeah, what are you feeding them, and is that consistent throughout the project?
The food is, I'm not exactly sure what brand it is, but it's a dog food.
Yeah.
And it is consistent, yes.
Is there any control of how much they're getting, so you're not messing up their gut biome and, like, you know, give them
It's
too much of
free access within the feeding station,
Okay.
but it's only filled so many times a year.
Right.
But we have seen, by preference, they don't like it. They don't use it. They use it when they have to. Like the parents, when the mother, when she's down on the ground, she's feeding the cubs, like she's lactating to the cubs, she'll run up, run out, eat, come back, that's it. Because it's a bit faster than hunting. But by preference, they'll hunt every time. It's only if they usually use it in emergencies, which I don't blame them. Fatty foods is not so good for you.
I know that you cannot feed a wolf with dog food. Is there not such a problem with foxes?
I would assume they've looked into that. I'm fairly certain it's safe. There's, so everything under this project is done under license and strict scientific protocols with the correct ethics forms have been
Oh,
assured.
they should know, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, the project's been going long enough. These rescue techniques have been going for long enough.
You said they pair up for life. Is that only in the Swedish population, or do you see that all over the world, and why is that?
Well, okay. Pair up for life is probably a bit too strong. They pair up and it's the same pairs you see together each year. But there's no, like, if they lose a partner, they will find another one.
Yeah, but is there like strict monogamy, or?
I think when you've got a breeding pair, there's strict monogamy in that. There's no hierarchical breeding. As I say, they're not in the pack mentality. And I'm not sure what the population's like around the world. I know quite often the Canadian wolves versus the Swedish wolves, the Canadian foxes versus the Swedish foxes. There's some weird stuff going on in Canada. But I don't know exactly what the population's doing over there.
I wanted to ask,
Yes.
how much do they have an impact on the small mammals population? You know,
Yeah, well,
seen
quite
as
absolutely.
the small mammal side.
Well, absolutely. Small mammals are key. How much effect does a predator have on a small mammal or on a prey population? A relatively limited effect, not massive effect.
Okay.
Of course, when you have a lot of prey species, in this case rodents, a number of them will be easier to see than the rest of them. Some will be in more exposed areas, be moving around at the right time and stuff, and they'll be eaten. But once you get past that number of the exposed ones, once they come down to a small enough number, they're almost impossible to find. You're going over such great distances to find them. It's easier for the fox to jump onto something else, like the birds or something. So a predator hardly ever, unless there's something like a disease risk involved as well, or some weird monoculture going on, a predator can hardly ever drive a prey species to a low enough number to cause extinction or population decline.
If you compare the population on Svalbard, who has a completely different environment to live in, what's the main differences?
Hunting versus scavenging. Basically, Svalbard, they are scavenging off of the back of other animal kills. These guys do as well. If they find a reindeer carcass, they'll eat it, but they'll take lemmings, live prey, hot food, so to say. whereas on Svalbard they don't have that option. I don't think there's anything like a rodent population.
No, there are no rodents.
So it's only whatever they can get off the back of the pony, back of the humans. So, yes.
Hi, you talked a little bit about the Swedish Arctic Fox project. Is
Yes.
that a conservation project?
So, let's do that bit now then.
Yeah.
Got a few little thingies in front of me. If anyone's interested and speaks Swedish, we have these lovely little postcards. Well, they're really a postcard. There's some information on the back about the Swedish Fox Project and a link to our Facebook and our Instagram, which is quite simply Arctic Fox Project. So you're welcome to take them. The project does accept membership, so once you find the Facebook and stuff, there'll be a link to a membership site where you can join and financially support the project, because of course everything costs money, conservation particularly. We've also got some of these little supporter stickers today, so I forgot to bring my pot, but if anyone wants to make a small donation to the Arctic Fox Project, you can go away with a sticker today. The project accepts volunteers, which is why I've been on this. So they accept volunteers every summer to go up and do these inventories. You'll often walk between dens. What you do, you'll go up to a den, you'll observe it for 48 hours. In that 48 hours, you'll trap for lemmings, or rodents generally. We call it lemming trapping. And that gives you a population data on the lemmings at each den, and also a population data for the den, like the number of cubs you can see. You'll do that for some region of 2 weeks in the summer. And then you submit your data, you come to a mass party at Stockholm University, we look at the data and everyone goes, yeah, they're getting better. Which is very nice. I will do my thesis, so it's a little bit different. But absolutely, it's an open project. You can find lots about it on the website, on Stockholm University, on Facebook. You can chat with me, I can send you some links. Separately, so not related to the Arctic Fox Project, I'm on social media too. And of course I've actually put up a picture of a fox which doesn't have my handle in the corner. It's all on the PowerPoint, but I'm not going to play that too badly. Yeah, so if anyone's interested, this talk will be back up on the website hopefully by the end of the week. The website is ecobarrett.com. Come and see me afterwards if you want to chat more about those sort of things. I do some other cool stuff. I'm doing tours of the Uppsala nature reserves. They're starting soon. First one's on the 22nd. We're going down to Lundsen and to go for a nice little 8-hour hike and cook out, and I'm going to cook you some lunch. I'm going to try to. No, I can cook. I promise. No. So, yes. Unless anyone's got any more questions. Yes?
Yeah, I think the question was about the layout of the family. So,
Yep.
one family in each den. Are they connected in any way to other dens, or is one family in each den, but then they can help each other out between dens?
Exactly. So, when I say they pair for life, occasionally an adult does run off. In which case, one adult may take her cubs or his cubs to a neighbouring den. In which case, you'll end up with 3, sometimes 4 adults and a fox. So many cubs in a den. But they are basically strictly separate, one family per den. You rarely find that the adults in neighbouring dens are related. I'm fairly certain that they spread quite far to not risk being near each other. This is a good technique to avoid risks of inbreeding and stuff like that. But strictly enough, it's one family per den, but there's some overlap. I know that actually this is R5. T13 when the lemmings crashed. Oh, yeah, sure about that. T13 when the lemming crashed, they lost a lot of cubs, because that's what you do. T14 is a bit further towards the forest. So what you have forest, no more forest, mountain. And those who were close to the forest, they kept basically all their cubs this year, or what I could see. Those who weren't near the forest lost most of their cubs. So T13 took her last 2 cubs to T14, to the neighbouring den. So I know she only went over with, I think I saw her go over with 2, she might have had more. You can't see everything. You watch for as many hours of the day. These things are sneaky. T14 managed to keep most. I think they only lost a couple of their cubs that I could count. Because the forest supports the lemmings and the rodents much better. There's also hares. There's a greater variety. And it's exactly that. We've stepped down from the low productivity mountain tundra to a high productivity forest area. And it's that simple switch, and it's literally 100 meters. 100 meter in distance, not even in altitude, to make that change. So yes.
Last question, I promise. Since you collect the feces,
Yes.
do you check also for parasites or something?
No, I didn't. So what we did, we've taken a small sample from it, which someone in the lab can go and do something with. That's their thing to play with. No, I'm only looking for bones, furs, and feathers. I'm only doing hard ones. Yes.
I have a question about the dens as well, because I think I have seen a den, but I'm not sure like, if it was like an Arctic fox den or something else.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a way you can like tell that for sure this is an Arctic fox den?
Not many things make a den exactly like an Arctic fox. The red fox do make dens up there, but they tend to be 2 or 3 holes on a slope as opposed to in a mound. The smell is quite significantly different. Arctic fox smells much better than red fox. Red fox is bad, it's really bad. Wolverine as well, you can smell a wolverine before you get anywhere near it, and they tend to just like have caves. So, let's say, you might well have seen an old den or a potential den site or an active den. The only way to really know for certain is to watch it for 12 to 14, 24 hours, see what pops up, if anything. If it's a red fox, because when I was up there I was looking for them as well, you can be 3 kilometers away from a potential den site. You can spot it in the scope and go, something moving. You get there, it's gone. You know what is a red fox? A red fox will see you at 3 kilometers and gone. They just run. Doesn't care. They have no quarrels about territory. They have no problems. They just move. The Arctic fox, they can be 20 meters away and they just look at me. It's terrible. Okay, I'm going to call that good. Come up here, feel the fur. There he is. A lynx fur. I know I didn't talk so much about the lynx, but if you want, you can come and ask me questions. There we go, give us a hug. Come and ask me questions about the lynx specifically, its adaptations to various climates, because obviously they range from north to south and everywhere in between. I will put these photos up on a slideshow so that you can enjoy them. Oh, would have been a good thing to do beforehand. Enjoy that. There's speaker and stuff up there. Stay and have a chat, and then come and have a chat with me about the stuff on the table. Thank you.